Hello everybody, it's me, King Murray. Today I'm revising and correcting mistakes of my third God theory. If you haven't already, go watch the video, so you can understand the context of this theory. Link will be in the description of this video. For those who have already watched the video, I will explain why I'm revising this old theory. I'm doing this because a majority of that video was incorrect, and it didn't explain itself well enough in words, but instead was an idea that only made sense to those who already knew what I was making a theory about. In my old theory, the main point of the video was about the betrayal of God and its gravediggers. In the theory, I tried to explain how Dr. Zomboss had used the organization to his advantage and then got rid of them by locking their main leader, the gravedigger, in a test tube in Z-Tech factory. I also went on to say that Baron von Batz was only saved because he still had some use to Dr. Zomboss. I now know that God in fact does still exist in Garden Warfare 2, and that the plants were behind the disappearance of the Gravedigger and the Coffin Break franchise. I'm going to point this out now. God is definitely not as strong as it once was, but it's still here. Dr. Zomboss would not destroy something that would give him power. Instead, Dr. Zomboss would let it be on its own accord, as long as the organization promised not to stab the Z Army in its back. As the zombies defeated the plants and gained new territory from their prevails in the time of battle, the plants would most definitely begin to plan a resistance against the ever-so-growing zombie takeover. As a side effect of God being set loose from Dr. Zomboss and now being able to make its own decisions, it is less protected from the Z Army. As a last-ditch effort to keep the zombies from gaining more power, the plants burnt the Coffin Break locations to a crisp. Therefore, a huge chunk of God was destroyed. What's to stop the plants from trying to kill the main leader of God if the organization was at its lowest point? You may be thinking why there hasn't been any evidence brought up yet. Well, I'm getting to that. If God still exists, where's any sign of it? To be truthful, there isn't a lot of evidence to suggest that they still exist. However, there is still one piece that does. In Zompopulous, in 2 different locations, there is a sign of Baron von Batz saying, "Please donate, I'm fainting." Now, why would Baron von Batz be saying this? Well, he is one of the main creators of God, and if the organization is almost completely destroyed, it would make sense for him to put out that they need donations. You have to remember, Dr. Zomboss let loose of his control over them and allowed them to roam free. Without his help, they are easily sustainable to being killed. Another point to be made is that the plants tried to kill the Gravedigger. Obviously, their plan failed, and Dr. Zomboss and the scientists were able to put him in the test tube to regain his consciousness. This would explain why it isn't the Gravedigger asking for donations, instead it's Baron von Batz. Now, I bet you're asking, the plants haven't burnt anything down before in the series, and my response is yes. Yes, they have. In my last theory, I briefly mentioned the fact that the barns, for storing Champion and Boss Tonic, were burnt. If we are to believe the plants burnt the barns, wouldn't we be inclined to assume they also burnt the Coffin Breaks? This would easily explain why the Coffin Breaks don't show up in PvZ Garden Warfare 2. Hopefully, this theory was far better executed and way easier to understand. I feel that with this knowledge we could make more astounding discoveries and finally untangle the massive web that is God. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye!